So France beat Morocco yesterday, 2-0 in the World Cup semifinals. I was bracing for riots throughout France today, but none happened. I'm happy. I'm also gloating because France beat Morocco. My wife and kids, of course, gave me a hard time uh, for my uh, for my gloating and for my what they called arrogance, taunting Moroccan friends over their loss. But to be fair, I do realize my reaction was and still is childish, not age appropriate for my old years. Uh, but I'm gloating. I'm kind of had it. I'm kind of sick and tired with the last few days. The jingoistic Arabist bragging of the past few days, Arabists and Islamists and their friends in the media flaunting the fact that Morocco was the first Arab or the first Muslim, the first African, or the first, pick your poison, the first country to have made it this far, that the lions of the Atlas, and note the name of the Moroccan team is the Lions of the Atlas, not the Lions of Mecca or the Hejaz, that those Amazigh, Berber lions, those Arabists and Islamists were claiming that those lions of the Atlas were carrying the banner of the Arab world or the banner of Palestinianism or the banner of Islam, that they are noble symbols of the oppressed, the colonized, soon to be creaming the oppressor, the colonizer, France. Well, I'm happy that the colonizer creamed the colonized. Happy that France beat Morocco, and I'm justified being happy about it. I'm reminded that I don't have a single drop of French blood in me, and that is true. I do not have a single drop of French blood, but France courses in my veins, and I'm proud of that. I'm ecstatic that France, the colonizer, beat its former colony. That is, by the way, this is not my language. This is the language of the idiots and the political hacks politicizing a ball game. And all you had to do is look at the camaraderie and the sportsmanship that was put on display by both Moroccan players at the end of the match, half of whom, by the way, are French born, and the sportsmanship put on display by French players, also half of whom are none let's say, of non-French ancestry. So yeah, I am happy that France beat its former colony. My my affective ties and my cultural and historical and moral references are in France's corner, the colonizer's corner, not Morocco's, not the colonized underdog's corner. This is not a crime. This is not hating on anyone. This is human condition. This is being human. We are still allowed, as far as I can tell from last time I checked, in this universe of inverted realities, this woke universe, I think we're still allowed to have preferences, to choose friends, and to taunt adversaries. Why not? They do it, we can do it. Um, so so yeah, I am happy. I'm also annoyed at Frenchmen of North African descent, not Moroccans particularly, because I think that Moroccans, as far as I know, do not brood over old resentments. Indeed, the King of Morocco considers himself a Parisian extramuros. He He keeps an apartment in Paris, and effectively, emotively, he is very much a Frenchman and spends every chance he gets, spends time in France. But I am annoyed by Frenchmen on paper only, français de papier, as opposed to français de cœur, which is me, the latter. So those Frenchmen on paper are annoying because their affective ties are with places they do not know, the original homes whence their parents came. I'm irked by Franco-Algerians in particular, living in France, knowing zero about their parents' countries, cultures, languages, religions, history, knowing nothing of that and still being so rabidly hostile to everything French, taking every opportunity to trash their native country. This to me is problematic. Being supposedly Franco-Algerian is problematic. Problematic because it is disturbing to me that one can claim to be French and Algerian and be so hostile to French culture. By way of comparison, the same cannot be said with other hyphenated demonyms. This cannot be said of Franco-Lebanese, for instance, or French Jews, or American Jews, or American Italians, or Franco-Italians, or Franco-Portuguese, because those demonyms, those hyphens after the word Franco, are pretty much all of them the spawn of the same civilization. There's no contradiction between the two. French culture, history, symbols, language, and its spawn, the spawn of these European identities, the American identity, they're all accessible and intelligible to any, and in my case, to um, to the Lebanese, because Lebanon's affective, emotional, and cultural ties to the West, to France in particular, is millennia long, whereas Lebanon's ties to, say, Syria or Saudi Arabia or Morocco, for our purposes today, those ties are apocryphal, they're putative, they're fabricated, they're invented, they're not real. They're a part of political expedience, and that is why, obviously, I support France in the World Cup as opposed to Morocco. I have much in common with France, and it's normal, and I do not recognize that I have anything of substance in common with Morocco, regardless of whether or not I speak the language of the Moroccans or the languages of the Moroccans. That is not the issue here. My affective and civilizational ties are for countries with which I share values. I share moral accretions, historical accretions, even if I don't speak their language. So I would support Brazil if Brazil was playing against Morocco. I would support Argentina if Argentina were playing against Saudi Arabia or Iran or what have you. And by the same token, I would not be heartbroken if France versus Argentina yields an Argentinian victory. I would love it for France to win, but I wouldn't be heartbroken if Argentina won. Indeed, Morocco and the rest of the countries we call the Arab world or the Muslim world do consider themselves in the midst of a spiritual civilizational conflict with my civilization, my culture, my belief system. It is they who consider that there is this sort of struggle, and so in this context, if you believe that France is the root of all the evils of colonialism, then we do have a problem, because on my end, my own conviction, based on empirical observation, on factual historical evidence, not on emotive balderdash, my own conviction is that the Arabo-Islamic conquests of the Near East, the Mediterranean, parts of Europe, is indeed the true root of all the evils of colonialism and cultural genocide and cultural suppression and crimes against humanity and historical distortion perpetrated over a millennium and a half on the pre-Islamic indigenous peoples of the Near East and the basin of the Mediterranean in general, including Morocco. So with that, let me conclude by saying that colonialism is not a Western monopoly. Indeed, colonialism as an institution was perfected in in the laboratories of the Muslim conquests of the Near East and Europe. And again, let me suggest that, and I've done this elsewhere in other fora, that no peace will come to the Middle East, and for our purposes, no peace will come to soccer before the allogenic ethnos, that is to say, the dominant Arab Muslims of the Mediterranean and their descendants, before they come to terms with their colonialist past, do away with the colonialist mentality of their present days, dispose of their colonialist arrogance and their feelings of superiority vis-a-vis of the cultures, peoples, languages, and histories that they have come to dominate and sought to replace over a millennium and a half. And I suggest that they do this recognition, this sort of introspection, this sort of self-criticism with humility and honesty, and in the spirit of respect and humanism and humanity. Allez les bleus.